Shalom, family. I know we all heard about the Holocaust of those Polish Ashkenazis, Ukrainians, Russians over there. But we're going to talk about the Black history, America's silent Holocaust. No one wants to talk about, but we're going to talk about it. And you know why it's silent? It's because they don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to hear what really happened to our ancestors and what is still happening today. But we're going to talk about it today. We're going to start with the transatlantic slave trade, 1500s through 1800s. Over 12.5 million Africans were kidnapped, shackled, and shipped across the Atlantic. About 2 million died during the Middle Passage from disease, starvation, and brutality before even reaching the Americas. Those who survived were sold as property, their families destroyed, languages and cultures stripped from them. This was the foundation of America's wealth. Cotton, tobacco, rice, and sugar built Wall Street, banking, shipping, and industry. The next one is chattel slavery in America, 1619 to 1865. Slaves weren't just laborers. They were treated as livestock, bought, sold, tortured, and lynched to keep them submissive. That's why we get this Willie Lynch syndrome, pitting each other against each other. That's the reason why we can't get along now. Dark-skinned against light-skinned, house Negroes against field Negroes, dark-skinned men against light-skinned men with good hair and nice hair. It's all a way of trying for us not to get along, and it's still going on to this day. I mean, we have Black women who were forced into breeding, essayed by slave masters to create more stock. This was economic policy. Slaves built the White House, the Capitol, universities like Harvard, Georgetown, and Yale. By 1868, economic value of enslaved Black people was $3 billion, more than all U.S. factories and railroads combined. Number 3, Reconstruction sabotage, 1865-1877. After emancipation, Black people briefly voted, held office, built schools, and owned land. But white terror groups like the Ku Klux Klan formed to burn Black towns, lynch leaders, and intimidate voters. The federal government abandoned Black Americans in 1877, allowing southern states to reimpose oppression through the Jim Crow laws. And we're going to talk about that a little bit further because it's happening again. Jim Crow and racial terror, 1877-1960s. Lynchings between 1882 and 1968, over 4,700 lynchings were documented. The real number is far higher. Victims were hanged, burned alive, castrated, and dragged through towns as public spectacles. Convict leasing. Black men were arrested on false charges like vagrancy and leased to plantation mines and railroads. It was slavery by another name. Segregation. Black Americans were forced into inferior schools, neighborhoods, and jobs while paying funding taxes to fund white-only facilities. Then we had the destruction of the Black wealth. Tulsa, Oklahoma, 1921. Black Wall Street, one of the wealthiest Black communities, was bombed from the air. Yes, bombed from the air and burned by white mobs. At least 300 Black residents were massacred, and insurance companies refused to pay the damages. Similar massacres occurred in Rosewood, Florida, 1923, and Wilmington, North Carolina, 1898, where entire towns were erased. And what happens? They go into the houses and take all the stuff that the Black people had. Now, if we were so dirty and so unkempt type people, why would you want the stuff that we have? Why would you want to come into our neighborhoods and take our stuff? You would want to stay far away from us, but it's because they're jealous of us. They know who we are. Let me keep talking. Medical exploitation. This one Here is the reason why my parents refused to give me any vaccines, and that's why I refuse to give any of my children vaccines. The Tuskegee Syphilis Experiment, 1932 to 1972. Black men with syphilis were left untreated by the U.S. government doctors to study the disease even after penicillin was available. Black women were sterilized without consent well into 20th century. J. Merriam Sims, the so-called father of gynecology, performed surgeries on enslaved black women without anesthesia. I hope he's burning. I hope he's burning. I hope he's burning. Mass incarceration, 1970s today. After the civil rights movement, the systems adapted. Nixon and Reagan weaponized the war on drugs to disproportionately target black communities. Crack cocaine, used more in black neighborhoods, carried by far harsher penalties than powder cocaine used in the white areas. Today, black men make up 6% of the U.S. population, but nearly 40% of the prison population. Prisons have become the new plantations, with corporations profiting from cheap prison labors. And that stops us from producing too, because if they're locked up with other men, their affection, just like in Romans 1, their affections is towards another man. And then if they get out, they have no desire of a woman. Let's talk about it. Ongoing violence and inequality. Police brutality is a modern form of racial terror. From Rodney King to George Floyd, the message has been the same. Black life is disposable in America's system. They already told us that we are 3/5 of a human, but we are actually the humans, and they are the Neanderthals from the Caucasus Mountains. The wealth gap today is staggering. The average white family holds 10 times the wealth of the average black family. This is not because of laziness, it's the cumulative effect of centuries of theft, land seizures, and redlining and blocked opportunities. So why silent Holocaust? Because the scale of death, trauma, erasure is massive, comparable to genocides elsewhere, yet is denied, downplayed, or reframed in the past. Schools still skim over slavery, lynching, and systematic racism. Instead of teaching about black resilience, inventions, and culture, history is sanitized. America demands black labor, culture, and creativity, but silences the truth about its crimes. See, they don't want to talk about their hands that are full of blood. They don't want to talk about how they mistreated melanated people. And melanated people are the most giving, the most loving, and the most forgiving people. Majority of us are. I'm not saying all, I'm saying majority. But the beautiful truth is, America's wealth, power, and global dominance are soaked in the blood of millions of Africans and their descendants. And I want to say, not just Africans, but I'm talking about Yehuda, and I'm talking about the tribes. This wasn't a side effect, it was a business model. What makes it a silent Holocaust is that, unlike other atrocities, it's still denied, unatoned for, and in many ways still happening. Through prisons, police, poverty, and policies that target black communities. But why did it happen? Well, it's because of the curse of Deuteronomy 28. No other people fits that curse. Not them imposters over there in Israel. Not these Christians, not these Gentiles. No other group of people fit those people except the black Americans. This is part 1. Let's get busy with part 2.